Hello and welcome to this Propellerheads Reason tutorial where we're going to go into a synthesizer programming lab centered around usage of the square wave. However, what I want to do is I want to zero this out, and this is, remember, a good solid habit we use whenever we're programming synthesizers. Try to start from a position of always the same. So on our reset device, we do an initialization of the patch, and that way we know right where everything is so that we can take it to where we want to go with it. That, of course, unless, of course, if you just want to make minute changes to some sort of existing patch that you know for sure, but sometimes that's actually still going to keep you from getting at the true potential of what I say is the most underrated device in the Reason software, which is the subtractor synth. A lot of reasons why I'm not using the Thor device right now, and I'll tell you this, it's a phenomenal synth, but there is a difference to, say, the abstract painting or the go wherever you want free verse poem, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's great. Consider the subtractor again, kind of like a sonnet that has specific rules with everything in a specific place, a specific line. You know, so we have this section, this section, this section, and it's always in the same places to where the modularity of Thor really could get us out there to a point where, believe it or not, sometimes within reason, pardon the pun, less is more because of the focus that you can achieve through kind of like a laser vision and knowing where, you know, how many syllables per line your poem has and all of that. Okay, so let's go here, and since we've zeroed everything out, we of course have our standard default sawtooth, but we've already worked with the sawtooth, and we want to take a look at our second wave. They're actually going to call this will be called wave 0, even though it's your first wave. And then our second wave is, of course, our square wave. So there's our nice hollow sound. And we could go in a direction of doing some sort of Hobbit-esque flute. There we go. Okay, special send a shout out there for Frodo. Okay, very cool, very cool. But you know, for this one, the square wave is phenomenal for depth and width on the low end of things. So we're actually going to go for a bass sound. And since we are trying to demonstrate all of the potential that's hidden in just the usage of really like singular waveforms, we're going to make sure that before we even add the second oscillator in, we're going to make sure that it's also set to a square wave as well. Okay, so now we have something. Okay, so we're in a good starting territory. I know for sure that this is going to lean in the direction of a nice mini Moog influence, Robert Moog influenced bass sound. So one of the smartest things we could do is go right over to the polyphony, and we're going to drop that down to 1, which turns into something monophonic. But that re-triggering, don't want that. We want it to slide around, smooth little monophonic legato with some portamento. So we're going to go legato. Love that old school music term brought right into the modern day. I love it when they do things like that, keeping what's been proven in tradition. Same with portamento, the sliding of pitch. We're going to take this on up here. All right, so now I really like our main general, the movement we have on our synth, and we still have this nice hollow sound from our square wave. However, let's troubleshoot a few things going on with this. The top of our sound doesn't hit as hard as it should for a bass, and it's a little plasticky, a little plasticky. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to back the filter envelope off of the velocity um, modulation there. There we go. Not that this is the end result sound I want, but that we move the unpredictability out of it. Then I'm going to bring in a filter that does have predictability, meaning it does the same thing every time. And we notice we got our sharpness right back to it. And we're going to pull that out somewhat in a bit here, but I want to leave the filter nice and bright so that I can hear our, there we go, our punch that I'm looking for. I'm going to make sure this is, we know that if we reset our device, our amplitude envelope attack is at 0, and that's good because I just want the filter envelope. You hear how we have something right at the start of that, even if I back it way off? Well, that's what I want because I want a kind of delayed speaker movement, so to say. A little something happening there. Okay, so it's a little bit muddy, so we want to tighten some things up. And I still feel like that top of that attack, we want it to be really strong because the square wave already leans towards the hollow. So if we leave it too hollow, it's going to be a little bit too ethereal for what we're going for. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring in our modulation envelope, and we hear instantaneously it's affecting things, but it's doing things, it's taking things to a downslope. And you know what I would rather have for this? The downslope worked beautifully on a chord because a chord kind of has this strike. You almost picture someone with a guitar type instrument and their hands up and they strike down into a chord. But a bass, picture someone on an upright bass and they're kind of sliding around. We don't want to imitate an upright bass as far as like trying to replicate its sound because we want something new and original here with the synthesizer. But the way that player interacts with that, you know, these upward slide, we're going to lose this. And I like our attack, but I'm going to have to leave too much of a tail in the decay for the type of effect I want. So instead of bringing it in through the attack, I'm going to keep this. However, I'm going to invert it. There we go. So we have the exact same effect, but instead of it being what you see here, it's almost like you flip this upside down. So we have this triangle shape here, and not to be confused with a triangle wave. So there we go. I want it to happen stronger and quicker. So there's our rate, and there's our strength. Okay, so little line there. Good. And I think too, now that we have something going on with the pitch envelope, we should lose some of our belated attack here. And I have the shift key held down so that our adjustments on the attack are really minute. You know what would be really nice is if we added some inconsistency to the texture, but not in terms of increasing that plastic aspect of the sound. I'd rather increase a metallic aspect to the sound. So that means I'm going to go to our velocity modulation and affect the frequency modulation, which of course right now is doing nothing because we need to add a second oscillator. So I'm going to back the cent off here by about, let's go to 10, and the cent to 10, and we have our polyphony there is 1. There we go. That's what I was talking about. So the reason it didn't affect that is because the frequency modulation likes to have one thing to modulate the frequency of the other with. There we go. I think this should be as subtle as possible, and it's really amazing. There we go. Okay, so we have a nice sound with some variety coming in from FM, but I still want to see how subtle we can get this. Not bad. Okay, let's see. I think for the bass, I would like to have the attack stronger, and then for the sound to fall into something quite a bit darker. So let's see if we can go here. And I think I'm going to back off our... There we go. So the amount of our attack, we have our genuine attack, which is our amplitude envelope, and we can hear, if I get rid of this entirely, you hear there's something right at the peak of it. That's because our amount isn't set to 100, it isn't affecting the entirety 100% of the initial attack. We have the amplitude attack right there, but our filter isn't showing up till far later. I want to do most of this with the pitch envelope though. So let's set this here. That's good too. There we go. And our pitch envelope. I want our pitch envelope to handle as much of that as possible. And because it's stronger and it's real. So just running that line there. Let me come up with something a little bit different for you. So there we go. We'll work a major for a little bit. Let's see if we have, now if we bring in a little bit of our FM, we're going to hear, there we go. I bet you something like 8 is going to be perfect, so. Now, I'm just curious, our sawtooth tutorial, I didn't want to change the octave of the second oscillator, but I'm thinking this one is going to add some good depth. Now we can back off our FM just a little bit. So, funny little bass line there. So, we have our attack now. I'm liking everything, but the plastic aspect of the work is still a little bit high for me. And I notice that fortunately we haven't relied too much on our filter, and that's one of the many reasons I like to leave as much of this for the very end as possible. Now that we have the real body of our sound, in one click I get it dropped to a 24 pole. And whoa, we have instant depth. And now I know that when we actually bring in our resonant filter, it's going to have a tremendous effect. This thing's really going to growl now. There we go. Just the right amount here. Running perfectly even there. Okay, cool. So now we have a pretty nice square wave bass, and we hear it has a lot of different properties than we had on our sawtooth. It's a hollow sound that, with or without resonant filter, we have a nice thick hollow sound that also works beautifully to double with other things. So you could have something else that's a little more in the face with an attack, drop in a combinator, combine these two if you wanted, and in the background you have this beautifully. And since you programmed it yourself, you know exactly what's going on with it if you want to make any minute changes. So So, just giving you some slow notes there to figure out what's going on with our. Okay, so now we have. Let's take a listen to where we originally started. From this, going through our square waves and doubling things up and affecting the modulation envelope to the attack, we ended up with from going from this to this by having some idea of the hollow effect and adjusting it, knowing here that we can get our variations brought in by velocity, and our modulation envelope can affect the attack. And of course, we like to save as much of our filter interplay for the very last, so that it does have an ideal mask effect without relying so much on it for the true body of the sound. So this is our square wave live tutorial here, and that gives you some idea of what you can do with the square wave as a bass. It also works really well for some hollowy, lutish, and flutish type sounds. However, there's going to be some other waveforms that immediately contribute to those ideas and bring in some nice variety that we're probably going to look at more with another waveform, so to say. So thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you picked up some cool new tips on how to use not only the subtractor, but a lot of these concepts are directly applicable to a whole lot of synthesizers. And at least here we have a nice return ground base that we can know exactly what we're doing and see where we're going with it. I've been using this for decades, and so you're going to hear a whole lot of intricate, cool little things in the underworkings of all these cool patches. So, and another thing that's nice is right now, I should end this by saying there is nothing going on in terms of additional devices. So just imagine you go in here and start adding some compressors, you start adding, the right type of very subtle reverb through your mixer, some EQs, and look out, this is completely raw, running straight to the hardware interface. In fact, I'm not even, to make sure that we get all the sounds going to the tutorial for you, I'm not actually using the full capabilities of my actual interface, so it even has a tighter, stronger sound when you are running it direct as just a single reason unit. All right, until next time, be unlimited. Stay unlimited. This is Marcus Unlimited. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.